Welcome everybody, it's Inseparable Sletzy, and I got a very special Age of Empires 3 Wars of Liberty casted game today. Something quite a bit different. We're used to 1v1s in team games, right? So what we got here, a actual 6-player FFA. This is something that I haven't really casted before on Definitive Edition or Wars of Liberty. So you're going to have to tell me like how I do with this, you know? It's my first time just dealing with the utter chaos when you throw a bunch of players into an arena and tell them to fight to the death with only one survivor, right? I'm assuming they didn't add diplomacy here, so I think there's only going to be one victor and 5 losers here. So before we see that duel play out, we need to check the map quickly and see, you know, how it's going to actually affect the gameplay here. So the biggest thing you notice on this map, which I think we've used for FFAs before, is the trade route is a big giant circle that, well, it's not really a circle, it's like a deformed circle. There's like lumps and bumps and, you know, this is not a straight line circle. This is like, you know, like a 5-year-old trying to draw a circle in kindergarten or something. But main idea is every player can usually get like 1 to 2 trading posts depending on how quick they are. If you're unlucky, you might not get any, so you have to be fast, right? In terms of natives, you got Cree natives on here. You also got, let me see, is there any other sorts of natives we gotta look out for? We got more Cree natives. So from the looks of it, it's just a bunch of Cree natives here. Yeah, that's pretty interesting, you know. I think in general, Cree natives are pretty solid, right? They have some really good stats. The trackers have such good HP values. They do help you in early game. They can help you in late game. Also, the added economy of the Cree Courier de Bois is certainly very helpful, as well as their technologies, including improving the HP of all your units, making your buildings cheaper. Just good stuff overall from these natives. Let's see how this match goes. I'm very curious on this type of a map, who's going to come out on top. Let's begin and see who's going to be the winner here. Alright, so it would probably be good to get a profile on all these players and what their strategy is going to be going into this thing. Right now we got Zooman with the Spanish, the España, the Toledo Civ. I don't think he's going to be playing Toledo style, because only Toledo knows how to play like Toledo. But in general, Spain can be a very effective FFA civ. In general, if they want to go on the aggressive side, they can get their temple or their church up and add the additional stats, attack stats, to their military using the missionaries. And you can have up to 4 missionaries, and the great part of Wars of Liberty is you actually know which units are being boosted up, because as those missionaries read their gospels to the army to make them better, God's shining light from heaven rains down on their heads, indicating that they're gaining more attacks. So even if the numbers don't look like it, or you know, sort of forget what numbers they were before, you get a nice friendly reminder that God is protecting those units with his life. Something definitely I would want to do if I was having to carry a musket in the battle as a conscript, for sure. As for the other ones, we got Lars with Sweden. Sweden has the interesting FFA advantage of having infinite wood pretty much. As long as they get 2 sawmills, thanks to Norland logging, they can generally do pretty well. Because as you know, on a big map like this, in a very long game mode like FFA, one of the things you're going to ask yourself is, how do I get wood for the late game? Especially when I need to get to the World War I age and make some trucks to get those buildings out. For some people, they're going to use factories for that, which is great, but of course factories can be sniped, and once they're sniped, you can't get them back. If you lose a sawmill in Sweden, you can rebuild it, so it's not that bad. And also the fact that it not only trickles wood, but also provides little cords of wood around it that your villagers can pick up, means that overall, Sweden, I feel like, is going to have a much easier time constructing trucks in the Great War Age if the game goes that far. No guarantee that it is, and remember, the more players you have on the map that are your enemy, the more expensive your World War I age up is going to be, right? So if it was like a 1v1, going Great War Age can usually be done like I do in my history 1v1 games. But in an FFA like this, we're talking like a cost of like 100k and growing number on the World War I age. As for the other combatants, we got we got Aladdin playing as Egypt. This is the weird option, you know. This is a wild card. He could do a lot of interesting things. He could go hyper aggro here and just mess up everybody else, and hope that he weakens him up so much that he can get to World War I and make up for his losses. That could totally be done. It would be interesting to see Egypt go into the World War I age and spam a bunch of dispatch riders here. That could be pretty interesting. We don't see a lot of dispatch riders, you know. Not enough Africa combatants in World War I. Dispatch rider being a motorcycle rider with anti-infantry stats. Really good at just wiping out large groups of units with its pretty quick succession firearm. As for the other combatants, we got Black Dragon with Germany. Really good overall, good civ. I think in general, as long as Germany doesn't go too greedy with their manor house construction, they're going to have a quicker jump to the later ages as well as better resources a lot quicker. It's totally possible Germany could outboom all these guys and could get to World War I before all the rest of them do. Totally possible, honestly. It does stink, though, that Germany's unique technology hasn't been added to the civ yet, you know. You would think of one of the major players of the Central Powers, they would already have their World War I tech already figured out by the team, but, you know, it's still pending. I'll definitely be looking forward to it. Sask with Japan. I don't think I could see Sask doing anything else except maybe Germany, which I've seen him do. In general, I think Japan has the advantage in an FFA of being a turtle-friendly civ, but also an economic civ. Japan can sort of just isolate itself like it's done for many years and play the isolation game, let everybody else kill each other, and then wake up out of your slumber in the Meiji Restoration and just throw your planes and bombers and tanks at everyone in Great War Age. Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, since this is a land map, aircraft carriers not too useful, right? So yeah, we're not going to really see any of that, I don't think. Do we even get like little ponds on this map? Nope, no water at all. Very dehydrating to even think about. And then Shakam Khan with the United States. United States, I feel like they're pretty vulnerable, you know. They're not good in the early game, so if anybody comes knocking at their door, they might get killed here. But that being said, if United States survives to the end game, gets to the point that World War I comes into play, United States can win on pure stats. And the reason I'm saying that is because United States has ways to upgrade their units in ways that they have superior armor, firepower to all their other adversaries, right? If you go for General Electric Company, for instance, your tanks, your armored cars, your machine guns, and your field guns will cost one less population. So we're talking more tanks than your opponents, more armored cars, more general artillery. And in that situation, you can sometimes, well, at least in the era before they added technologies to the Great War Age, you could like wipe out entire armies of the other units. What I don't know, though, is if you get General Electric upgraded tanks, can that bigger tank number actually compete with regular World War I soldiers with their anti-tank guns? That's something to be seen, right? Because obviously tanks will engage soldiers with machine guns and not with their shells. So that would be an interesting duel to see. Maybe we'll see it today. Who knows? Anything is possible in FFA. That's why I like FFA. I grew up playing FFA. I just love doing FFA more than anything, you know. I know a lot of players in Wars of Liberty just do FFA, you know, like Hector and so forth, and it's really the most intriguing mode, I think, because you really get to see the late game strengths of every civ in action. And unfortunately, I don't think I've seen a couple, but, you know, just seeing how World War I plays into all those FFA games, like who gets the first one, and do they maintain it as the only one, right? In general, I think if Eternity's in an FFA, he's going to get World War I 99% of the time. Unless I'm playing Inca, then I'm going to get it before everyone. That seems to be the general rule of thumb, if you ask me. Yeah, so at this point, everyone should have their decks figured out, so I want to just go over that, see what they're planning for. So it looks like Zooman is playing the long game. Economic upgrades, military upgrades, training upgrades, factories, cringe market, fish market on a land map. Like, not funny, dude. Get something useful. Not funny. You think you can win this thing with only 24 cards, man? Good luck. You need every card you can get. Well, he is making line infantry, though, so this is... Is he going to be, like, fighting somebody, or is he just defending himself? That's a good question. As for Egypt, Egypt is a bit of a wild card, I think, with this deck. I do see some potential aggressive shipments being put onto the field. Namely mountain guns, the 5 Corsair shipment, and maybe the Nafatunes here. Also, Tufancy Corp and Armatolai, not so much, but particularly the heavy cav and the heavy cannon units. If you throw a quick FI onto somebody, you could snipe them early on, and that thing can wipe out one of your opponents and maybe take over their resources. I think that's generally one of the ways you might be able to do Egypt in an FFA, is just play like pirate style, you know, get the FI, ram some really nasty shipments at an opponent before they can deal with it, and just grab their mines, grab their food. And then you have a nice starting army to make sure nobody threatens you. And then you use your caravan advantage and map control with the caravans to just get to Imperial quicker and maybe even Great Voyage quicker. Yeah, it's pretty hard to think of, though, because in a way, Egypt is actually the hardest civ to play in Wars of Liberty. Devs thought it was Zulu. It's actually Egypt. Yeah, mainly because the caravans, I feel like it takes a little bit more work to get the villagers' path correctly than the Zulu. Because at least the Zulu, you know, have like a normal town center situation, right? Their macro is a bit normalish, if you could call it that. So yeah, definitely. And then Zulu, of course, have some poggers things like the ability to spam mounted guns beyond the normal population thanks to the youth and so forth and the spawn system. Yeah, definitely. Very interesting stuff. Looks like Aladdin is actually going a bit aggro here, trying to take down a Japanese shrine with some of his Armatolos. These are essentially the Greek skirmisher units, so generally 20... It has 20 range, which most early skirmishers like crossbowmen don't. You know, they usually have like 16 range. This makes the Armatolos a pretty good sniping unit for early game. Even outranging the Green Jacket, the British. What is Black Dragon gonna do? So Black Dragon... Oh, he's playing with the 40 card deck. Ooh, he's playing with 40 cards. 0 skill. Well, here's the thing. 40 card decks is a very controversial thing. Because it's cheating, but it's not cheating. What do I mean? Basically, it's cheating because you have more cards in your hand that you can call upon than your opponent, which means you have a card for everything. You can have all the late game cards, but also be able to have unit cards, all the crates you want. In the hands of a madman, having a 40 card deck like this is diabetes sauce. But in the hands of somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, who cares, right? Because essentially you're going to acquire those cards at the same rate as everybody else, which means if you don't manage your cards properly, it doesn't matter if you have 40 cards, you're just not going to use them properly and you're still going to die, right? So that's probably why Black Dragon is allowed to play here. People might think he's not exactly a fair combatant, but at the same time, he's not really hacking. He's just taking advantage of an XML exploit you can do to just combine two decks into each other to make a 40-card deck. And that's essentially how you do that. I'll tell you how to make a 40-card deck if you want, and it's pretty easy. So what you do is you make 2 decks, right? You make a deck with all your Age 1 and your Age 2 cards, right? To total up to 25, right? Or something close to that. And then you make another one to have all your Age 3 and your Age 4 cards, right? To make your deck number 2. And then what you do is you combine those 2 decks together into one deck through the XML file and clone them into each other. And then you end up with a deck that has approximately 50 to 51 cards. And that basically gives you every shipment that you want. I don't recommend you do it though, because people will probably flip out on you like, come on man, you need to play legit and stick to the card limit. You know, it's kind of cheap when you have 50 cards, so you can basically react to every situation in the game, where I can only react to some of the situations with the limited hand. And yeah, that is true, so only do it if you know your friends are alright with it. Otherwise, you're probably going to get yelled at. You know, you're not going to get banned for doing it, right? It's not hacking. You're not like spawning monster trucks, but you might irritate somebody doing that, and they might not feel so friendly about letting you in their lobbies in the future, because they just don't want to deal with that kind of stuff, you know. That's all I'm saying. Just make sure if you're going to use 40-card decks, you do it with responsibility. Like, if you're all going to use 40-card decks, great idea, but, yeah. Just thought I'd put that PSA out there for people wondering. Sask, he's playing a pretty standard Japan deck, I think. A lot of economic shipments here. Also some combat here, namely for the Kie, for the Shiguma, and the artillery, as well as a bit of the Gunto Rider. Has the multiplier boost for the Gunto. So it's kind of a little bit of everything except the Yabasume, which is totally fine, right? And the Samurai. Nobody uses Samurai in, like, FFA, right? You're mostly going to be using Skirmish, Musket, Goon, Handcap, Artillery. You're not going to really be using Samurai in, like, these really big games. Also, Samurai loses value once you get to World War I, because obviously the tanks and the armored cars, right, they're not cavalry tag units, so Samurai really does nothing to them. So yeah, that's how the Samurai falls, actually. You know, armored cars, the one thing the katanas actually can't slice through, you know, just blasting them with their machine guns through their Japanese armor before they even get close. Yeah, that's essentially how that happens. Oh, Aduaneros. This is an interesting one. So Aduaneros are a Spanish raiding unit that has a multiplier 3 against villagers, leading to a total damage output in H3 of over 50 against villagers, right? And most villagers have like hack armor only, so this makes it a really good raiding unit. And not to mention, it also trickles coins, so the longer the Aduanero is on the field, it does pay you back the cost of training it. So if you can really raid well with your Aduaneros and avoid getting them killed, they in general can be a pretty good unit for you. Also, they don't have any tags other than infantry, which means neither means that skirmishers nor assault units with anti-heavy multipliers or anything like that will really do better against them. And also not anti-skirms either. The only thing you probably want to watch out for is probably handcap, as well as ranged assault like the Zouev and artillery. You know, if somebody has like a falconet or something way in there, yeah, they'll blast your Aduaneros down, so definitely watch out for that. So Egypt, you know, they're being the wild card right now. They're actually trying to raid Spain right now with some Felahin, the hand raiding unit that Egypt has that attacks their units with daggers. Also moving around with the Palace Caravan from Industrial Age. Look at all these Felahin. This is a big mass over here. This is a very motley looking crew right here, and this could definitely wipe out somebody's economy if you're not careful. Each of these doing 20 damage to villagers a hit with a very quick rate of fire. That's one of the things that makes the Fela a very underdog hand unit, is it has really quick rate of fire, you know. Normal units, you know, they swing the big bulky sword around. The Fellahin are basically ninjas, but they use little Arabic Middle Eastern daggers, and they just cut through people's very quickly, pretty much. And that's what gives them an advantage. Lars is being a turtle. He's building his turtle shell of wooden walls right now. Can't blame him. You know, with Egypt on the field, I would want some walls as well. Oh, he's also picking up Courier de Bois from one of the Cree... Oh, yep, from one of the Cree sites. Saska's also grabbed a Cree site. Maybe Japan and Sweden are going to be smart here and wait out this nasty situation and weather the storm. We'll see, though. Shotgun Khan is ready to fight, though. He might be fighting with Japan first here, and maybe Sweden if he makes it through him. He's got 2 Whitworths, which are anti-infantry artillery, like the Falconet, but longer range. He's got some Louisiana Tigers. This is a range foot assault unit. I talk a lot about assault units, and the difference between this and, say, like a heavy cav like the Cuirassier is, instead of, you know, having a splash attack with the sword, this just has multipliers against infantry at range with its gun to make it still an efficient anti-musketeering tool. Like other assault, it has hand armor and it's very fast. It can kite pretty effectively. So in general, I think if SAS sticks to the normal recipe of infantry, USA might have some success here, but we'll see. Seems to be pushing his focus over to the Swedes, though, and this might cost them some military positioning, though. He did actually make samurai, though, it looks like, and he's moving those samurai into the trading post to do some siege work. That should be a pretty good thing to get that TP down. I wonder if Japan's just going to go into Sweden and try to take them out, and at the same time USA is just going to crawl in and like attack Japan when they're least ready and maybe take out one of their wonders. You know, it would really hurt Japan if they lost their Toshugu shrine and their shrines became less efficient as a result of that. It would also be painful too if Japan lost their Golden Pavilion, even though thankfully that's sort of in the back here. They'd probably lose the Torii Gate before they lose the Golden Pavilion, which is good for Japan, right? All the Torii Gate does at this point is make sure that Japan gets bigger XP bounties from their stuff, right? Like when they train units, buildings, or when they kill stuff, they get more XP from all that. That's all that means, really. And what is Germany going to do is the question, too. Because Germany is wielding a 40, or actually a 51 card deck right now. So that means essentially Germany can do a lot of painful stuff here, right? If he lasts for like a really long part of the game, he means he's probably going to have like the easiest time here, right? He's got the cards to get him through the early game, and then he's got all the late game cards, even the wood chopping cards, so yeah, even the building hit point cards, even the everything cards. So leave Germany alone for too long, and that could really cost everybody their lives at this point. Black Dragoon is already in industrial age, it looks like. He already has a Krupp factory as well, so we are looking at free artillery becoming a reality very soon. He has picked up the Essen style work here too on the Krupp factory, so it is producing steel guns, which it already began to queue up since the Capital Age or Age 3. Yeah, that's sort of the cool thing Germany gets to do is they get to make heavy cannons in Age 3. All for free, but at a very slow rate, you know. If you need like quick cannons like Pronto, it can be a bad thing, but if you don't mind waiting and you can like handle yourself with just skirmishers for a while, getting Essen style work early can be great. Looks like Krupp Factory number 2 is coming out as well. And what is going on over here? Egypt is ruining this man over here. What did he do? So it looks like he's rushing with his mountain gun shipment, which I mentioned at the start of the game. Helping him is the Mamluks. He's got Mamluks. He's got Bedouins firing their arrows into the TC. TC is down. Pel's caravan moving in with them. And wow, Egypt has actually claimed a casualty here, or likely will. Because what's going to happen is these settlers aren't going to have a place to call home anymore. And eventually the Fellahin of Egypt can opt to go down here and dagger these villagers to death with their deep little cuts. And that spells the end for España and the rise of the new Egyptian kingdom of Spain. Bowmen? Where did these bowmen come from? Is this a train unit from Baladin, or was that a shipment? Nah, he's training archers. He's training actual bowmen here. Yeah, that's sort of the thing. Like, when you go Egyptian FI, you don't have a really well-established economy once you come on the other end of that FI, so it's kind of normal to see people train camel riders or bowmen at that early stage, right? You know, that's sort of the thing that makes the Egyptian FI sort of balances. You don't get a lot of resources going that route, so you do have to catch up with the times, right? And that's why your shipments matter so much. If you lose the mountain guns, your FI is basically worthless. But if you keep them alive and you can support them with some really bare bones camel riders, bowmen, spearmen, yeah, it becomes a real serious threat. Lars could actually choose to finish off Spain now if they wanted to. However, it looks like Spain is trying to act a bit of a porcupine here. They're getting 2 town centers, and they could possibly get a 3rd town center too. USA not making a move yet. They're sort of just staying at home and riding out the storm, I think. Spain, though. Spain is not looking good. It's great to see Egypt actually gaining a casualty in this war here, you know. Taking out the Spanish Empire. Yeah, that town center should go down pretty quickly, but as soon as that one goes down, another one will be put in its place down here. What might happen is, and I think maybe Zooman is aware of this, maybe Lars will see Egypt approaching and they might actually engage the Egyptians on their behalf and take them out because they're a serious threat, you know. Having a bunch of settlers on your backside chopping wood and doing nothing else isn't as scary in the early game, right? But having a big Egyptian army, though, that's a serious, big, spooky boogeyman situation to run into. And where is Japan with their military? So, where's the Japanese army here? I'm curious. Like, so yeah, he's got his military here, right? So it looks like he might have had an engagement with Sweden that I didn't notice. He's back over here now. Just because Shocking Com hasn't really engaged yet means he has a bit of an advantage here in terms of army numbers. Oh, looks like Sask is going Imperial Age now. Watch out, people. This is not looking good. This means that Japan could very well get an exalted upgrade on one of their infantry and just rule with stats alone here. But also, Sweden is also in Industrial Age. And in terms of resources and Vil numbers, they're at about, how many Vils? So, Q of 2, Q of 6, so like 60 villagers or so on the field. Yeah, that's pretty good. Plus the 5 Courier de Bois. Yeah, so Sweden's looking pretty economical, not doing a lot of fighting here. They might want to get some sharp teeth, though, to keep the Egyptians off, as well as the Japanese. Yeah, mainly Egypt. Egypt might, yeah, is Egypt going to turn around and go after the Germans next? Yeah, as Egypt, you sort of have to play God here. And when somebody gets a little bit too big, you need to knock them down a few pegs. Because if you don't, you know, you're not going to have the time you need to get your caravans out and reach that Great War Age. The one good thing, though, about Egypt, which none of the other African civs gets to enjoy, is their farms are free as long as they use their card Oasis, right? Oasis allows their lots or their farms to be free. And unlike other farms in the game, the lots do deplete food. So if they run out of food, those farms die and you can't use them and you have to build a new farm. Egypt is the only civ of the 3 Africans that actually gets free farms. So for them, food eco is infinite, right? As long as you have villagers to gather the farm and do the farming with, you're all set to get more food. So thus, as long as you have a couple villagers as Egypt, you can always get more villagers and thus more farms and thus more villagers. You know, the circle of life, basically. The Egyptian circle of life. Oh, and Spain's going to put a mill and a plantation down here. So yeah, they're kind of just hugging the walls of Sweden for protection. Which, as long as Sweden's willing to do that, you know, benefits Spain pretty well. Look at all these steel guns, though. I just think it would be a shame if, like, the... How much handicap does Egypt have? Not a lot. But couldn't the Fellahinds... Not really. The thing is, Fellahinds are actually considered scout units, so actual cavalry. But their HP is so low that, you know, they basically die to a lot of the same things that, like, your heavy infantry would just because of their low HP. Which means, you know, a bunch of steel guns, as long... Are they on bombard mode? Yes, they are on bombard mode, so if something does run over here, they will shoot immediately at them. Oh, Egypt playing Kingmaker here, going after the Japanese now with his Fellahinds. And he's going to dagger these Japanese villagers to death now. Wow, look at this. Look, yeah, Egypt being the MVP and the demigod of the game, playing like Ra or Set or ISIS here. You know, choosing who lives and who dies, who's going to have a commie and who doesn't, right? Instead of the locusts, you know, in Age of Mythology, you just send a bunch of angry Egyptian guys with daggers to eat up their farms and their villagers. Totally massive raid there. That was a big raid. That was a lot of lost villagers for Sask. A lot of lost villagers for Sask. That's pretty close. How close? Well, he can definitely save those villagers there because he literally constructed a lookout here. Which I'm surprised Japan hasn't done anything about yet. But unfortunately for Japan, right, their problem is that Egypt kind of just played God and just wiped out a big portion of their economy for free. Literally free. So now Japan has to sort of deal with that loss, and they do have a lot of surplus coin though, so it's not as bad. So what are they going to do? They're going to go Exalted Shiguma, and instead of Kie, they're actually making mercenaries. They're making Guanyi. Guanyi being a, they're like the old Tralkatufe. It's called a mercenary Tralkatufe. See, the old Tralkatufe, the way it worked was it was a high HP skirmisher that had multipliers against all cavalry as well as heavy infantry. And I guess it retains those stats here, making it a pretty interesting skirmish unit to say the least. It kind of puts him almost more on par with the Volta-Guardu Quebecs in that way, since they also counter cavalry at range and melee. So yeah, Guanyai and Shigumas, that should be a pretty interesting combination here. Problem is though, is you're going to have problems with the artillery, right? The Gatling guns as well as the Whitworths here. Gotta be careful with Gatling guns, you know. Gatling guns a serious threat in Definitive Edition, also a serious threat here. You really gotta watch out for those things. If you don't pay attention to those things, you can end up in a really short end of the stick. Japan's infantry holding strong here with the stats morale of the Genshui Nagoka Gaishi. With his very long mustache. He's got a really big mustache. Shiguma's trying to hold the line here, having a bit of success taking out the Louis and the Tigers. You can make it through the Tigers, your only threat left is the artillery. Can Japan keep up though? Well, I think the problem is not resources but rather production. They don't have enough enough military buildings to train up for this fight. One barracks is not enough, and he's kind of realizing it now. I wonder if it's too late, but what's going on here? So, USA is gonna let him rebuild. Wow, very interesting. Very, very interesting. He's gonna let him rebuild here. I wouldn't let him rebuild if it was me, you know. Oh no, he's just backing up to get a good shot at the Teshugu. Nah, that hurts. That really hurts because you can't get that back, and that's gonna hurt like all your shrine incomes going forward. Big time. Big time. Picking up close combat. Not the card out. Oh, he's doing it for the hit points though. Alright, that's why he's doing that. I would get veteran battery though at this point, because you could use the canal cannons to blast away the United States artillery with better ease, I think. Yeah, that's what I would do if it was me. Look at the symbiotic relationship between Spain and Sweden here. Spain under the Swedish crown being protected. He's probably going to go after Egypt with what, some peseteros? These nice Spanish mercenary skirmishers from Basque country. Basque. Who is Japan going to go after now? Is Japan going to go after the USA? Are they going to go after Egypt? I don't see them going after Germany, because Germany, you know, Germany being Germany, has been pretty peaceful and pretty diplomatic this game. Just, you know, they've sort of been like the Teddy Roosevelt of this game. They've spoken softly, and they've carried their big stick around so nobody ever wants to deal with them, basically. A very strong military that no one wants to threaten. When you have that many steel guns, you know, infantry armies will just melt. I'm also checking here to see what's the resource count look like for Germany at this point. Not as much resources as I would have thought, so if somebody could, like, come knock into his door, he might actually have a bit of problems here. Also, another thing, too, when I look at this 40-card deck is it's missing a lot of economic upgrades. I would have expected he would have, like, optimized this 40-card deck a lot, but no, doesn't look like it. He doesn't have refridge. He has no, like, economic upgrades, which for me, making a deck like this is definitely very interesting. He does have, he went all out with, like, the military upgrades, though, and then he's got, like, all the special unit shipments, too, so it's not the worst, but it's definitely, it's got hot break plan. He can get, like, infinite hot air balloons. So the more times you send this card, the balloons become faster. Oh, very interesting. Adds 250 gold. Okay, pretty fascinating. Never used that card before because I really want to use hot air balloons. You know, it's a cool unit when you're France because, you know, you start the game with one, but I don't think, hey, I need to use up a whole card in my deck slot to get hot air balloons to spy on my enemy with. It just never occurs to me to do that. Going, switching up a bit with Gunto Riders. Hey, it's not bad. I mean, the thing is, though, is these Wevs, or these Louisiana Tigers being assault units, is actually going to meat shield pretty well for the cannons, because unlike, you know, the militia, Zwevs being assault don't have the skirmish tag, so these Guntos don't actually take advantage of their multipliers here. And also the fact that they do hack damage means the Tigers are going to be able to front the damage a bit better with their hack armor. Yeah, looks like Japan's going to try to engage right now. Going strong here. Gunto's soaking up a lot of bullets, allowing the Shigumas to get some better aim here and shoot in a bit deeper into his lines. I find it interesting, he wasn't even really using the Guntos for like combat, he was just keeping them near his infantry as like an HP soaking device, a lot of like the way you would use the manlet. Yeah. So yeah, because of that nice little meat shield over there, it looks like the Exalted Shigumas are going to win this fight. Right here. Make some more Guntos, yeah, he's got him up to veteran now. Oh, but now the Spontooners come out. The Spearmen. The Spearmen are going to guard against those hand units for now. Yeah, and Cannon's still alive shooting his Shigumas. At this point, Sasuke has to retreat and recover some numbers here, though. Yeah, that's what he has to do at this point. I find it interesting how Egypt has managed to get so much map control here. They actually were able to move a caravan up here and do a rock mining operation up in the top here. You know, one thing you can do is Egypt, which not everybody does, but I like to do it, is instead of going with the rock mining, I like to go with olive plantations. You can actually get olive plantations with Egypt. And it comes with all the technologies as well that the Greeks get for them. So everything up to extra virgin olive oil. And that's the difference between like an olive plantation and a regular plantation, is the olive plantations just get more techs on them. So they become much better over time. Definitely. But you can't argue with rocks either, because the rocks from the quarries gather at the same rate as mining, I believe. So it's a very fast, a fast source of coin that you can do. Trade-off being that the rocks are depletable, so you know they're not an infinite source like the plantation. So you have to keep making more rocks, which costs about 100 wood and some price in coin. I believe it's 220 to do that. Spain is now reaching out and is going to start to attack Egypt with the revenge in their eyes. What's this? Veteran Cuirassier Guard Line Infantry. Oh, Egypt's getting Gur's Mace and 2 more Palace Caravans, so they're ready to fight too. They're ready to go on the battle here against the Spanish army. But Egypt was very smart. They decided to construct obelisks as a scouting tool and to alert them of the encroaching Spanish army. Yeah, so basically what's going to happen is looks like this army here is going to have to, well, the fellows are going to go in first, I think, and they're going to probably try to make a good move here with their numbers. I wonder, yeah, you might want to wait for some of your guys to come to help you, right? Some of your maneuver friends. Wait for some of your archers to come in to help you, the Bedouins, because the Bedouins now have multipliers against shock units, which means they're going to be a little bit more impactful against the Cuirassier, doing about 10 damage per shot with their arrows. Look at all these Felahins, though. They're completely swarming and surrounding the Spanish military. They might think they have an advantage with their superior firearms and bayonets, as well as the cold steel sabers of their cuirassiers, but the Felahin, their swarming ability, can do a lot of damage. And unknown to the Spanish, the Egyptians recruited their own gendarmes, their own cuirassiers from France, which means now France was able to drive a very strong shock attack onto the Spanish with their own heavy cavalry. This has wiped out the Spanish army, and they're going to have to be forced to erect a new army to deal with it. At the same time, we see Japan succeeding here thanks to their alliance with the Dutch consulate. So what allying yourself to the Dutch does now is it secures you a good variety of units. You can get the Quertropen Marines, which is a good marine infantry. They have access to the West Indisch Jaegers, which is basically the Dutch skirmishers, as well as flankers. Yeah, as well as flankers. But with their ultimate army, you can get some mortars as well, the Cohoons, to do some siege. So that looks like what's happening here is SAS just switched to doing Shagumas with some Dutch consulate ally support. That's a gram a pretty good advantage here, since we're talking like fully upgraded European skirmishers versus the standard ones. Looks like Shotgun USA has resigned. My question is, how does the rest of this game go, honestly? What do you think? Egypt is actually going for a safe house caravan. Very interesting. Yep. Egypt going for some spies, some espionage. That's something we don't see every day. You know, we got this great feature in Wars of Liberty, the spies in the safe house, but nobody ever uses it, right? I mean, History uses it, I believe Toledo uses it, as well as some other 200 IQ individuals, but not everybody uses spies. But yeah, wait a minute, the recording stopped. I think it's probably because one of the juanitos paused the game or something, or maybe, you know, one of the Juanito Burritos computers ran out of disk space to keep recording the thing, so it terminated. That's kind of unfortunate, though, but it does leave a bit of a cliffhanger, right? What do you think happens here? Does Spain get their revenge against the Egyptian army? We can see here they have another army of line infantry as well as the Batadors, ready to go for another engagement. Does Germany go to World War I and dominate the entire world with its superior class military? They are growing in coin and food, so it's totally possible. Does Sweden do something similar? Does Sask rebuild the Japanese Empire in the Rising Sun and vanquishes its longtime Egyptian foes to the north, who a long time ago raided their economic mining camp? We'll see. We'll see in a episode you'll never see in your lifetime, because I doubt they have a recording that's finished for this. Yeah, that's kind of sad they weren't able to finish off the recording with this, but it's alright. You know, it does leave a good cliffhanger. You can use your own imagination to figure out sort of how it ends. Hopefully, though, you learned a lot of stuff along the way about, like, managing yourself in an FFA and all the crazy things that can go on. There's multiple ways to play. You can be super aggro, you can be super turtle, you can be in between. Doesn't matter. So, you got a lot of tools at your disposal when you go in FFA. Sweden was the most economic here. Lots of wood. Lots of money, too. Look at all this cash that the Swedes are making from their IKEA furniture. You know, lots of wood to make IKEA furniture, and lots of money from that industry. In terms of military, Japan, the most largest army on the game. But Shakam Khan, in their war against the Japanese, did get a lot of casualties. More casualties than anyone. Lars being, you know, very much like the real Swedes, total pacifists, building a bit of a military, but never actually fighting in an actual war, you know, not even fighting in World War I or II. That's how neutral they were. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this FFA while it lasted. Hopefully we get more FFAs that are actually completed, you know, 100% completed. If you enjoy any sort of Wars of Liberty casted games, or any casted games like Age of Mythology, Definitive Edition, anything, come to this channel. You know, we got everything. And if you have any other ideas of games that can do casting work for, let me know. Like AoE 2, AoE 1, Return of Rome, AoE 4, anything like that. 0 AD. I'll do it for you. For a price. And that price is your viewership. Yeah, that's... Isn't that a great deal? You watch and I do. No, nobody does that, right? They make you pay money or something. I don't make you pay anything. You just come and you watch the stuff. Yeah. But anyway, see you next time. I had a lot of fun doing this FFA. It's my first one I ever did, so Hopefully you enjoyed this and you can give me some critiques in the comments about how I did. See you in the next casting game that pops up, or I shouldn't say pops up because I have much more to do. So yeah, see you in the next one overall.